Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Nutmeg Sports. It is a Wednesday wet edition once again. I'm Rob Adams. Hopefully going to talk with Dave Stewart today, but again, there's a lot of moving parts throughout this week. Donald Eng off with the Monroe Courier. And that's where I came up with the idea, because what we do on this show, just to give you a little background, is we often need to react to situations. That's kind of sports in a nutshell for you. And, you know, it's about reacting. How do schools react in cases of weather? How do we react in terms of getting out to a broadcast, getting this show taken care of? You know, there's a lot of pieces to it. So I came up with the idea to talk with someone who's a friend of the program and let him explain from a school perspective just the chaos that weather can cause, and that is Dave Schultz, the athletic director down at Fairfield Ludlow. Figured let's give Dave a call and talk to him about various and sundry, including the weather. Dave, thanks for a few minutes. How are you?
Sure, Rob. Thank you. Yeah, this is one of those weeks that you don't look forward to as an athletic director, with the weather being what it is.
You know, how do you adjust? Kind of take me through the process, because I know there's always people calling you, hey, Dave, is today's game going to happen? I had to do it to you yesterday with the tennis match. I've had to be in touch with Carl Charles about today's softball game up in Ridgefield. So how do you deal with it? There's a lot of juggling going on there.
Yeah, there is. And today is one of those days that it's very is harder because it's not raining right now. And I'm constantly, every 10 minutes, updating the weather forecast on the computer here. If it was pouring all day, it's easy. In the morning, you just postpone and you move things. But today's one of those calls. I've just been on the phone with Doug Marchetti at Norwalk, because we're going to try to get our tennis in. So we're gonna try to leave here right at 2:10 and try to get over there and get that tennis in before the rain comes. Hopefully by no sooner than 4:30. Softball and baseball are an issue today. The forecast around 5 o'clock isn't good. You know, we're going to go. My field's ready. We're going to go for softball, and I think we're going down there for baseball to Westhill. But it makes for tough calls. What you don't want to have happen from a financial standpoint as an athletic director is you send buses out, and then they turn around and come back, and then they got to go again tomorrow. That can get very costly to us. So we try to make the right call in figuring this out. But it's a crapshoot. You just try to do the best you can and figure it out.
You said something very key about getting the buses out, and I remember having this conversation with Jim DiCarlo, who was the one-time Greenwich athletic director. You know, I was down there for a basketball game, and it was a really kind of bad snowy night, and I think it was Bassick came down to play Greenwich, and I pulled him aside. I said, what makes you decide to do this game tonight? You went on and had the game. He said, Rob, once the buses are on the road, I feel like the safest place for them is to get to our building, and then we'll just kind of keep everybody here as long as necessary. Does that kind of play into what you do?
Well, ours is more weather. There's not the danger of driving back in a snowstorm that we have in the wintertime. You know, where your bus gets out there, and now it's got to get back 5 hours later, and the roads could be significantly worse. But today it's more, not from a safety standpoint, but safety of the athletes playing on the field, playing on the tennis courts. Golf is one sport where we play unless it's lightning out, because they do have rain suits and we can get them out there for golf. But the other sports, it's just a concern of whether or not we're going to get the game in. Now, as we get near the end of the season, it's another problem, because we need to finish our regular season by CIAC rule, so that all games count towards the state tournament. At the same time, we're trying to figure out who's going to play in our FCIAC championship games, which is comes right at the end of the regular season. Luckily, we're still 2 weeks plus after this of playing. If you look at the long-range forecast for next week, it looks pretty good. So, we should get anything that we lose this week made up either on Saturday of this week or into next week. We do use the final 2 Saturdays of the regular season as mandated makeup dates so that we can complete our year.
Now, of course, you were a coach, and a really good one, because I covered you when you were a basketball coach, so you can kind of put your brain into this, and certainly as an athletic director, but it's especially in terms of baseball, now you have to be concerned with pitch counts, inning limits, things like that.
Absolutely.
Take me through that, at least from an overall athletic director perspective.
Yeah, that is true, too, because you throw a kid out there and he throws 3 innings, and then it rains, and the game has to be restarted. You've used a pitcher, and you might have thrown a lot of pitches. So that comes into play, too. It's totally just trying to guess if you're going to get the the game in. Now, baseball and softball can be played in a light rain. Tennis can't. Once the court gets wet, we're done with that. Lacrosse obviously can play in a little bit of weather that, as long as it doesn't involve lightning, we're okay there. But it's the tennis and softball that make it difficult to make this call. And then the athletic directors are most of their day today is spent trying to figure this out.
And it's a no-win, because sometimes you get these forecasts, we see these heavy rains, and yet an hour or so later, sometimes we see sunshine, and we're all kind of shaking our heads. What about that aspect of all of this?
It happens too. Now, Monday we guessed right. We were on the fence for tennis Monday. Rains held off, and we were able to get our match in here with Westhill. So you just kind of do it and hope. The last 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday, we ran track meets here, and both days it rained in the morning, and the forecast was for clearing in the afternoon, and the throwing events area were dry enough that we were able to have the meet both Tuesday and Wednesday. But I took a big chance in doing that. But if we didn't have them the last 2 days, the weather forecast for this afternoon wasn't good, and I have lacrosse tomorrow. So there's a lot of juggling of pieces that the ADs have to do to where they can fit these events in.
And you mentioned tennis. We were going to be out there to see that tennis match yesterday.
Correct.
And it got me thinking about, well, if the rain did stop, how wet would the courts stay? What kind of drying can be done on the courts? And basically, the answer I got from overall was not really a whole lot. It just needs to naturally dry. Is that true? Yeah,
we squeegee them off if there's puddles to make it playable. But then you need the sun and a little wind to dry. Yesterday I used a backpack blower from home for the leaves to dry off the runway for the long jump, and the throwing areas for the discus and shot put. So that you can kind of manipulate that a little bit. Put a little backpack blower on the whole tennis courts. It wouldn't really do much.
Talking with Dave Schultz from Fairfield Ludlow, and these are, of course, the waning days for you at Fairfield Ludlow. What are your thoughts as you begin to kind of wind down there?
Well, it's a difficult feeling in my mind because we started this program 12 years ago when we split schools again, and it's been very close to me, and I've enjoyed it very, very much. I'm really looking forward to my new position in working as the commissioner of the FCAC, but at the same time, it is difficult to leave Ludlow.
Have you started to kind of get yourself ready for the FCAC? I know you're involved in it, obviously, on a day-to-day basis. We talk to you so much, but have you begun to kind of get your mind toward how to run the FCAC? I mean, it's awkward the way I'm asking the question. Hopefully you're picking up on it.
No, I understand what you mean. Absolutely. In fact, John Cutso just walked into my office because we're going to meet now and talk a little bit more about things that we need to talk about in regards to moving forward with the FCAC. I'm lucky to be, having the mentorship of John and Ralph to make this transition a little easier for me.
Well, absolutely give Mr. Cutso our best, and we will talk to him soon as well. Great of you to come on at this moment's notice, Dave, and thanks so much. I know we'll talk to you again really soon, but again, Thanks for your time today.
My pleasure, Rob. Thank you.
All right, anytime. That is Dave Schultz, the athletic director down at Fairfield Ludlow. Again, kind of a crazy week we're having here, and they do happen, of course, from time to time. But you see these days where we have maybe that rainy day, and then the next day you get everything going. Well, in this case, we're just having day after day of rain. There has been an impact, at least, on Monday. Now, some schools did play. Yesterday, pretty much everything got canceled, with the exception, as Dave said, of things like golf and lacrosse, but not much else can get played. Today, schools are really up against it. As we stand here at this portion of the program, the softball game that we are scheduled to cover up in Ridgefield at 4 p.m. today between St. Joseph and Ridgefield is scheduled to go on. I spoke to Kathy in Carl Charles's office, and her first words to me when I said who I was were, "Rob, we're going to try." So they're in a tight spot right here because you've got day after day of postponements. And again, as Dave alluded to, it just kind of pushes things toward the back end, and you've got to get that requisite number of games in for the CIAC, which is all part of the payoff of this. We'll take a break here on Nutmeg Sports. We have more to do. We'll talk a little more about some other things, including where we stand in the playoffs. You know, we're getting closer to all of that. We're certainly going to talk about Athlete of the Week again, make sure we're on the same page there, and continue on with more of the show right after this on the HAN Network.
Can't wait for it to get warmer so you can start fishing again? Get over to the Dock Shop, where they have the latest in fishing tackle, marine electronics, boating supplies, and more. But remember, the Dock Shop isn't your average tackle shop. You'll also find the finest selection of nautical apparel, jewelry, home decor, and gifts in New England. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, DockShop.com.
Do you need help reaching or maintaining your fitness goals? For over 20 years, Mike Pernice has tailored his time and expertise to clients on both coasts whose schedules demand flexibility and accountability. Mike is a certified lifestyle manager and has been called upon to help his clients eliminate negative behaviors such as coping with stress, improving their time management, setting realistic life goals, and cutting down compulsive behavior. If you're ready to start working toward a more energetic, productive, and healthier you, call Mike Pernice.
I'm Kate Chaplinsky. Join us for Coffee Break, weekdays at 11 to get the latest Connecticut news, weather, high school sports, and more. News doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break on the HAN Network.
Welcome back to Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network. I'm Rob Adams. It is a Wednesday edition, so we're missing Donald Eng. Some weeks he can step in and say hello. Some weeks it's a little tougher for him. So in any event, we roll on here on this edition of the program. And, you know, catching up on the playoff situation, St. Joseph, of course, has been the team to beat pretty much all along. We had Jeff Babineau on yesterday, and that's a tough team to deal with because there's so much talent, topped by Nicole Williams, who is one of our Athlete of the Week nominees, in fact. So, again, considering the way she is pitching, and just pitched a perfect game, in fact, the other day against Brian McMahon, you can see how good she has been. That team overall continues to fly along. They do play today at Ridgefield, as we told you. Ridgefield up in the West Division, riding near the area of 8-4 on the year and 5-3 in the conference. They're a good team, but St. Joseph with only one loss on the year so far, and it's an out-of-conference loss, in fact, perfect in the FCAC otherwise. You know, we asked the question, is it St. Joe's conference to win? And theoretically it is, but we all know the saying about next day's pitcher and all of that. Westhill, who they were scheduled to play yesterday, also having a terrific season at 9-2, 8-1 in the conference, and Trumbull as well. But Trumbull did lose 3-2 to St. Joseph earlier in the season. Again, just shows you Trumbull is a really good softball town, and so you got to take all that into account as well. But you also have Ward and Darien and Ludlow all having good softball seasons. Some of the other teams kind of riding around that 500 mark. You know, Staples at 4-5 in the conference, 4-8 overall. You've got Stamford, who we saw earlier in the year. They're down to 5-6 overall, but 5-4 in the conference. They've had a pretty good year. In fact, they're a fun team to watch. Danbury has kind of, 5-6 overall, 3-5 conference. Shows you FCAC softball, and I said this yesterday about FCAC baseball as well. It's kind of like the diamond sports in the conference are, for lack of a more graceful term, beating each other up, and thus in the state polls not getting the respect that these teams probably do deserve. We'll cycle back to baseball in a moment with Darien continuing to do good things, but it tells you that all these teams playing such good baseball and softball, with the records, the voters are going to look at this and go, well, okay, maybe they're not as good. Plus, there are some other teams, of course. We saw that St. Joe's is number 5 in the game time poll. It just goes to show that, there are some other teams that are undefeated, and that's where they get the higher respect from. So in terms of the FCAC, it is a very competitive season, a very competitive conference in softball. And the same can be said as we switch off to baseball now. Darien right now holds the tiebreaker over Norwalk, and don't forget about the Staples Wreckers, because all of a sudden, with a big win over Norwalk the other day, Staples is starting to get healthy again, and that's a bad sign for the rest of the FCAC. Staples, of course, had been kind of struggling a bit. They lost Nate Panzer, they lost Mike Fanning, they were struggling in that regard, and a big losing streak in the middle of all that, but all of a sudden they got healthy somewhat and really took it to Norwalk the other day. That was a huge win for the Wreckers, and for the Bears, that was only their second conference loss. But Darien right now, really kind of the class of the FCAC, at least at this moment. They're the one team that's getting respect around the state in terms of the polls in the conference, but that's it, really. Other teams that are really in the thick of it, we should always mention Danbury, and we saw the Hatters beat the Blue Wave just a few weeks ago. That Hatter team is very likable as well. 8-4 coming into this week, 6-3 conference, but don't sleep on Trumbull. And all of a sudden, here comes Greenwich. Again, in this wild FCAC, you've got Greenwich playing better now, so they're in the thick of it as well. Now, we mentioned the Staples struggles overall, but they're right back. On the other side, you've got Darien overall at 10-2. You've got Norwalk. You've got St. Joseph playing well. And McMahon, another team that, again, is kind of confusing in the way that they play. Some weeks up, some weeks down. One more time, that's the idea of how these teams are kind of taking it to one another. And I just think this FCAC tournament is going to be absolutely fascinating with all of this. Some of these teams pitch better than others. Some of these teams hit better than others. And in some cases, like Staples, you've got a favorable ballpark to the right-handed hitter if you can get the ball up into the jet stream with the Blue Monster out in left field. So, again, very interesting conference this year. On the other side of some other sports, we look at boys lacrosse for a moment, and we've talked, till we were blue in the face about Darien and New Canaan, what a great job they both did in that matchup last Saturday. But just when you thought Darien might stumble against Staples, kind of lose sight. That was a classic trap game last night for Darien against Staples. Well, no, not the case. Darien really took it to Staples by a final score of 17-5, with Jack Niffen scoring 5 times in that game. This Blue Wave team right now is on a mission, and we will see them tomorrow. And this is a game that's not weather permitting. We'll see them tomorrow when they take on St. Anthony's of New York. That game also will be right here on the HAN Network. And New Canaan coming back. How would New Canaan respond off that loss to Darien? Well, they had a 14-4 win over Ludlow, so good job there by the Rams to come back and do what they needed to do. And thus you want to see these teams just refocus, continue on, and we'll see what the playoffs bring us for sure. We can switch over to the girls' side of lacrosse as well, and over there, it's been a Darien-New Canaan show. Now, is that everything? Not really. Darien and New Canaan, both excellent, but Greenwich is having a great year as well. So keep them in the thick of it. And beyond that, you've got a Trumbull team that's 7-2, 3-2 in the conference. So again, a lot of good lacrosse to be played throughout the conference. Plus boys golf, girls golf, tennis, volleyball. It's a busy time of year. Let's take another break here on Nutmeg Sports. When we come back, we'll visit with a couple of the teams that we'll be covering later this week. Again, weather permitting. We'll continue with Nutmeg Sports right after this on the HAN Network.
I think what makes ONS special is that it has everything that makes academic medicine great. We have the fellowship-trained specialists, but we still bring the style and type of medicine that's indicative of a community practice.
We are all trained in our area of interest and expertise, so our patients see a doctor who specializes in their particular injury.
I did have 2 consults with major New York City hospitals, but I just felt that the care was best here. I was treated like a rock star. The surgery exceeded any expectations that I had.
For over 25 years, Mike Cizik Painting and Wallpapering has been the name to know for residential and commercial properties in Fairfield County. He uses only the top brands, including Benjamin Moore, for impeccable preparation and lasting quality. Call Mike now and receive $500 off any job over $7,000. Mike is currently accepting reservations for spring, so call him today at 203-770-8869 or 203-972-3310. For your custom painting, finishing, and staining needs, it's Mike Cizik.
It's time to come back to hometown banking, where people are taken into account, not just balances. Where community comes first. A place where there's more than one kind of interest. Where automation will never replace consideration. Where they not only know your name, they know your dog's name too. It's time to expect more. It's time to bank well. Bank smart. Bank local. Bank well.
A Better View Window Cleaning Plus has been cleaning glass all over Connecticut for over 20 years. They also specialize in cleaning chandeliers, mirrors, skylights, tiles, and will power wash anything that needs cleaning. They hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and are fully insured and bonded. When you deal with a Better View, you're dealing with the best, not the rest. Call today for a free estimate, 203-284-8836, or visit them online, abetterviewcleaning.com.
Had a sports injury or slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast without an appointment. Biking, golf, tennis, soccer, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care open Monday through Saturday in the iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk, or go to coastalorthoexpress.com. That's coastalorthoexpress.com. Like them on Facebook.
You are watching the HAN Network, and you're not alone. Nearly 500,000 viewers enjoyed our broadcasts in the first 5 months. Advertise on the network that reaches Fairfield County, Connecticut's most engaged audience. Contact Jessica Murrin, Advertising Director, at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Back with you on Nutmeg Sports as we wrap up this Wednesday edition. I'm Rob Adams. We're going to head back to the FCAC Tour for a couple of interviews that we did with two of the teams that we'll see. We've added a game to our schedule, again, weather permitting, on Friday, and I think it's a good one, with the Westhill Vikings going to Ridgefield to take on the Tigers. These are two teams that are kind of standing in the background going, hey, we're here as well. We'd like to be a part of the playoff fund. So we had a chance to speak with both of these teams during our FCAC Tour, and we will see that game, weather permitting, Friday up at Ridgefield High School. With all that said, we thank you for watching this edition of Nutmeg Sports. I'm Rob Adams. Weather permitting, softball coming up later today from Ridgefield as the Tigers host St. Joseph. My thanks to Eric Gendron and to Dave Schultz as well for all of us here at the HAN Network. I'm Rob Adams. Enjoy these interviews on Nutmeg Sports. You get to know certain teams after a while, and even before HAN Network, HAN Radio, or anything, for Tim Murphy, I actually covered the Ridgefield Tigers baseball team for a year for the Ridgefield Press. With Murph, I'm Rob Adams, so we're going to talk with this baseball team and see what they have in mind for this year. We'll let them introduce themselves and start right here. Who are you?
I'm Michael O'Brien.
Coach Paul Fabry.
AJ Fabry.
Michael, let me start with you. First of all, congratulations on your college plans. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I'll be attending NYU next year in the fall. Plan on studying into the sciences, computer science, physics, that area, maybe engineering. Haven't completely decided yet. I won't be playing sports in college.
All right. We were talking about the confidence off the air. How confident are you in this team this year?
I'm very confident, personally. I mean, I've been playing with these guys for years. I think we got a great team behind us. We're very multi-dimensional. Not one area sort of dominates our team. I think we have a strong pitching staff, strong defense behind us. Our guys can hit, definitely. So, I mean, I'm feeling very confident about this year.
Coach, I'm sure you got to like that confidence for sure.
Yeah, we do. We have a good senior class coming back, and you know, we've talked. We have a lonely banner in the gym. It's got FCAC baseball championships 1988 and nothing else. So, you know, hopefully this is the year we kind of fix that and add one more patch to that. So, we're hopeful.
And AJ, you're coming off an all FCAC season, left fielder, leadoff batter, and this year I hear you might be doing some pitching too.
Yeah, last year, I did have a pretty good year, but I have to attribute that to my teammates and my coaches. They set me up in good spots. I was always able to just do my job, and the rest of my teammates did their job. And that's kind of what baseball's all about, is just doing your part, doing your 1/9. And this year, I think I'll be able to help out the team on the mound. Last year I wasn't able to, sideline with an injury, but I'm excited to get back on the bump this year.
Michael, it's a very good FCAC. There's a lot of talk about, the likes of Staples and Ward and a few other teams, but you see yourselves, this team, right in the thick of it.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, we feel like when we're at our best, we can beat anyone, any given day, and I think we absolutely will do that.
This team seems very serious, Coach, but at the same time, is it a fun group?
Oh, it's definitely fun. The kids have a great time, and it's baseball. So we're looking forward to a great year. We got a good group. Colin Lowe is a legitimate ace on our staff, and we look at the template that Ward set 2 years ago. They came into the last day of the season, the 20th game, not knowing if they'd be in the FCAC playoffs, and then 3 games later they were the league champions. So if they can do it, so can anybody. So we're hopeful.
And AJ said that one tradition is to do a cappella songs before games. How did that start?
I think that just speaks to the livelihood of the group we have. We like to have fun with each other. That's what baseball's all about, is going out there and enjoying yourself and being relaxed. And, on bus rides to away games, we like to have a little fun, get the vocal cords warmed up, kind of gives us some energy heading to a big game. So we kind of thrive on that energy.
Any new additions to the repertoire this year?
We like to stay patriotic. This year we've gone a little national anthem on the bus rides just to honor our country. So I think that's a big part of getting us motivated before games.
No Young Thug?
No, Young Thug is not on our repertoire yet, but I think as the season progresses, I think we could venture into that genre.
Excellent.
Guys, we hope to see you throughout the season. Best of luck, and have a great season out there.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks to all the guys here from Ridgefield Baseball. Happy to talk with the Tigers here on the HAN Network. Let's talk baseball on the HAN Network at Westhill High School with the Vikings. I'm Rob Adams. Let's let these guys introduce themselves, and we'll find out what kind of baseball team this is. Who are you?
I'm Johnny Spoto.
Michael Tavano.
Johnny, first for you, congratulations on Southern Connecticut. You have something to eat. He's laughing at me already. Okay, don't even know the joke, but you have something to eat before games. What's that?
I do. I eat a Cliff Bar before every game. It's just something I've always done, and I feel like I always have to do it. So eat a Cliff Bar before every game.
Michael, over to you. I see you're going to pitch this year and play the outfield as well. Do you have a preference between either?
I like the outfield a lot. Just helping the pitchers out. Always got to be there for them. Hey, you got their back, they got yours.
And what kind of team is this? The FCAC looks like it's going to be a pretty good team, a pretty good league this year. But where do the Vikings find themselves in the middle of all that?
I'd like to say we're going to be contending for everything at this point. We got a lot of guys. We love all of them. We got great team chemistry at this point, and hopefully we can make a nice run.
You got a ritual handshake out there also?
Yeah, it's a couple of the outfielders and I, we always just have fun, watch the infielders do their infield outfield. So, we're just kind of hanging around, so we keep it fun.
And as a shortstop, Johnny, is there anyone you pat in your game after you? Are you a Derek Jeter guy or, somebody like that?
Yes and no. I always looked up to Jose Reyes. He was a Met when I first started to watch him. I love to watch him play, and I learned stuff from him. So yeah, I take after him. I like the way he plays. So,
what kind of team is this in terms of its personality? What do you guys do for fun?
We're a real fun team. We have a bunch of running jokes through practice, through games, a bunch of nicknames for guys, and just make jokes in the dugout. Keep it relaxed.
Baseball's a game you got to do that with for sure. So have a great season, you guys. I know it's going to be a fun year, and best of luck.
Thank you.
We appreciate the time of the baseball team, and the Vikings going to sneak in here behind us. We're at Westhill High School. Any thoughts for us, Viking? No. Shy. All right. We're on the HAN Network.